Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Ghost Biker Garage. Happy Thursday and happy March. Glad to be here and happy to have everyone over here in the chat room. Just want to say hello to Dee Hoot. She's obviously excited about tonight's guest. I can't tell you how excited I am about tonight's guest as well. But we also have Dr. Chris Sumner as well as Carl Jebrail. So if you guys have any questions for tonight's guest, please put them in the chat room, and when we get to a break in the conversation, we'll pull those up and we'll ask them to our guests. And if you don't mind, please put them in all caps, just so I make sure that I don't miss anything as it comes up there. So just a few things going on. Like I said, it's March and it is International Women's Month, and so we are celebrating it here at the Ghost Biker Garage with having some amazing ladies on every Thursday night. And so we're kicking it off with the Blondes from Paranormally Blonde. And we're going to be, talking about their new show as well, or their show, the new format, and several different things that's going on there. Got a lot going on at the historic Scott County Jail as well. With it being International Women's History Month, we've created some new flashlight tours that are going to run every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday there at the jail, and then also public ghost hunts. So we have all of that on our website. You can go on there to the events tab and you can pull those up and book your dates through that. You can book them up to the day of the event, but up until 4:00 that day. So we've got that going on, but we got a full pack show tonight, so I want to go ahead and bring my guests on. I've been actually receiving quite a few messages before the show of people who are excited to see these ladies. So I know a lot of you know who they are, know about their show, but if you don't, we've got Deedee and Sara who are coming on, and they're both paranormal investigators, been investigating for a combined amount of, I believe, 25 years. They've been hosting multiple paranormal podcasts, and currently they're doing Paranormally Blonde. So I'm going to go ahead, pop them on here, and we're going to go ahead and get started with tonight's show. So, hey, ladies.
Hey.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Oh, thank you for having us.
Yeah. And so, like I said, I've received several messages just before the show about folks who are excited that we're going to be chatting with you all tonight.
Awesome. Look at that. We have fans. Look at that. People like us, Deedee.
That's right. So, so let's just go ahead and kind of get started. Tell me about, each of yourselves, how you got started, and how Paranormally Blonde came to be.
Deedee, you want to go?
No, I'll let you go first.
Okay, so you want to know how we got started just in paranormal, or?
Yeah.
So I'm the youngest of 3 girls. My sisters are 10 and 7 years older than I am. So, I was kind of dragged along to do anything scary, or they like to scare me. So it's just always kind of been, I don't have like that story. Like I saw a ghost when I was a kid. I don't recall any of that. It was mostly scary movies and, right, going in the woods and looking for the wood witch. But I didn't really have anything specifically, except my mom was really into spirituality and angels and psychics. And, we'd always go to the psychic fairs. So I kind of always had little things in my life that were of interest. And then as I got older, it just kind of became that exploration of just what's out there, what happens to us. And my sisters have had experiences. I just don't recall one specifically for myself. Hey, Steve. So it just kind of blossomed into, hey, let's organize the team, give it a name, and let's start going to these locations, kind of like everybody else. And then that led to posting every silly thing I did on social media, like everybody does. And, it kind of rolled right into meeting some people. And then it was like, hey, I've been watching your post. Do you want to do a show? And then Deedee was asked as well. And we did that show for about a year. And then it was kind of like, when somebody has a lot going on, they're just like, hey, I got to end it. And Deedee, I'm so grateful that Deedee was like, hey, you want to keep doing this? And I'm like, sure, let's keep doing it. So here we are over a year into Paranormally Blonde, and it's been a great ride.
Yeah, I agree. I'm so glad that we did continue on. And it's funny how we kind of met. We were sort of Instagram friends that we, in each other's friends, and how this all came together. And now you're like a really good friend. And it just goes to show you how the paranormal can, create friendships and you didn't even know were, coming.
That's right.
But for me, I don't have a childhood story either. I moved into a house when I was in my 20s, and it was an older house, and like right off the bat, weird things started happening, and I just always ignored it, like, because it wasn't like anything crazy weird. It was just weird, like you would take note, kind of like, okay. And people were afraid to come over. They were afraid of our house. And I was just like, I live here, it's fine, But so, we moved out. I thought about it a little bit, but not like, I didn't really like want to investigate. I didn't even know people did paranormal investigations. And apparently they always have, but I didn't know that at all.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually paranormal TV shows that showed me that people actually do paranormal investigating. And I'm going to say that was maybe 6-7 years ago. Before that, I had no idea that people were even doing this. And so then when I was comparing stories with the TV shows and different people that I met on Haunted Hour, I was like, oh my God, like this actually happens and other people think this is real. And that opened the whole thing up for me. And I just like jumped in with both feet. And that's why I'm here after only like a few years, and I went right into investigating and stuff. And I'm more fascinated now than I was then, even though, I'm like more skeptical, I'm careful about what I think is a spirit or something, but I think it's really exciting. So
yeah, absolutely. And the paranormal is awesome for that, because I know I've met some of my best friends in the paranormal, Dr. Sumner, you ladies, and it's, hopefully here soon be able to maybe get to do an actual investigation with you all. I think that would just be awesome, because we're sort of right now all spread out throughout the entire country, with Deedee on the West Coast, and of course Sara there in Michigan, and myself over here in Tennessee. So it makes for a really cool dynamic to cover the entire area. So can you tell us a little bit about Haunted Hour, Deedee?
Haunted Hour was started actually in England, and it was run by this guy, and I can't think of his name right now. And so I just came on as just like somebody chatting, and I like immediately, like, there was a few people that I really like, met, and like we had similar experiences. And so it was nice for me to talk to people who understood, the paranormal, and I learned like stuff from them right away. And a little bit of time went by, and they want to start a Wednesday night version in America. And so me and another gal started that. And we did that for about a little over a year. We did, and it's just chat. So it's like old school. You go in like a chat room, but it's all public. So whatever you say, everyone can see. So that's a little bit different. And then time went by, and different things happened, because it was like about 4 or 5 of us that did different, hosting of it. And one by one, they all just kind of fell off and didn't have interest. And he finally said to me one day, do you just want it? And I'm like, yeah. So I'm still doing it after 5 years.
So do you essentially come up with a topic beforehand?
Yeah. So every week I turn into a poll. So every week I do a poll, a paranormal poll, and you chat for an hour. So it's on Twitter, Sunday nights, and it's 5 p.m. Eastern time. And you can just go in there. You can share your paranormal stories, but it's Twitter, so you have to make it short, or a bunch of tweets. But it's a really good little community. I mean, people come on and they're just real. They're not like, I don't want to say this sounds wrong, but they're not like people who are in show business. They're people just regular people having paranormal experiences, and they want to be heard, and not everybody gets heard if you're not, with a certain following. And so I want anyone who has a story, I don't care. You can have 1 follower, 0 followers, doesn't matter. I just want to hear your story, and other people do too, That's kind of like my purpose of it.
I love that, because I know I've gotten comments before on my show when I'm showing like my episodes, where sometimes people will feel intimidated to comment because maybe they are newer or haven't necessarily had an experience, or maybe don't quite understand some of the tools or something. So it's really cool that you've created this space where people can go on and share their stories. That's really cool.
Thank you.
And so, so we'll definitely, we've got the different links to some of the different shows and such there in the show notes. We'll make sure to go in and add the Twitter link to Haunted Hour, because I believe that's one that I did not get added on there. So we'll make sure to add that. And so, Sarah, you say you've been investigating with your sisters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we started, again, a long time ago. I mean, I guess I always change it. I don't know, 23 plus years, 25. I mean, because the thing is, we've been doing it sporadically, but organized wise, right? I guess just when it became popular, right? In 2000, like it just started to be popular. And so we do a lot of the, it's mostly me going to Western New York. So we've done haunted roads, cemeteries, some pretty big locations, not as big as like Waverly or anything, but rolling hills, and we've done museums. We do a lot of personal homes. I do personal homes here in my community. And I just don't really I know there's haunted places here. I don't know how to get in. People who watched our show know I complain about this all the time. I don't know how to get in. So, but it's, I love doing this with my sisters, like how we're all spread out. My sisters are all spread out. I've got one in Buffalo, New York, and the other one's outside of Austin, Texas. So it's great because then I get to travel to these locations and find locations to investigate. But it's hard because then I am not consistent. And I think when it comes to teams investigating, and especially if you're going to share it on social media, you got to be really consistent, right? Like you've got to have something going on constantly for people to care. And I find that to be hard. I'm 50 years old. I mean, social media, I like it, but I can only be on it for so long, and I feel like there are people who really, really focus and dominate their time on these, and it shows and it pays off. And I think it's amazing. I can't. I can't. I got to do other things in my life. So.
Well, and I mean, and that's the cool thing too, is, I mean, with your all show, let's talk a little bit about that, about Paranormally Blonde. With your all show, you do a variety of that sort of thing. Sometimes you do live investigations, or you'll have guests that do live investigations. And I think that's one of the things that I really like about watching. I enjoy tuning in every week because you do have such great guests on there and you do such a variety.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've really figured out, our groove. Do you agree with that, Deedee? Like, I feel like, kind of what Deedee's doing with Haunted Hour, we've moved into a YouTube version, right? Like it really, yes, we have people who are famous, like the Ghost Biker and Dr. Subner of Soul Sisters, right? But then we also have those people that might not ever have an opportunity, and because maybe a show wouldn't ask. And so we want to meet everybody in the community. I think you want to know all the players in paranormal. I mean, to me, why do you want to just know the ones on TV? We know them. Like, now let's meet the other players. And there's so many different aspects and avenues in paranormal. Oh my God, you could have a different show every day, probably, with as many people that do this. So yeah.
Yeah. And that's what's interesting too about it, is the fact that you really nailed it talking about the celebrities. I mean, you kind of feel like you know them. You kind of feel you know what's going on, but then you've got these other investigators that are essentially the boots on the ground people and the content creators that are going in, and they don't have the TV crews that are following them around. I mean, their job isn't just to go into the location. It's also to go in and do the research, do the investigation, and then also do the going through and analyzing the evidence. And so I think that's really cool that there's a place to showcase that.
I'm beyond honored when, we reached out. It's very rare. And I don't know if Deedee feels this way, but, if we reach out to somebody, I mean, I cold call, and I'm not kidding you when I say I just slide right into those DMs and I'm like, hey, you want to talk to some blondes? And we get the conversation going. And, 9 times out of 10, I mean, one person hasn't responded back so far. So I'll just use 9 out of 10. Like, everybody's like, oh my gosh, I would love to do that. Actually, you know what? There's another one. I think I used the words, I've been stalking your page and you have amazing information on crystals, and they've never They won't. They read it. They will not respond. So don't use the word stalking in any emails. So.
You'll probably get flagged at that
That's
point.
right. Probably. Yeah, she's got me blocked. It's okay.
So I tuned in last night, and which, you know, you all were showing every night or every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern time, and you had a little announcement to make. Can you share anything about that announcement on here?
Deedee, do you want to share?
Sure. Well, we're moving to Monday nights, and we're going to be on, I'm so glad it's in front of my face so I can read it, the UNX network. And it's going to be same time. It'll be 7 p.m. Eastern time. And we're going to be on their YouTube, their Facebook, and the radio station, I guess all at the same time, right? And then we're going to download it to the YouTube you're used to after the fact.
Right. So it's going to be essentially the exact same show. We're just going to have some little fancier, flashier images like you're viewing right now. And then we'll have like an intro and an outro. So, and it will be, so for those of you who know I'm long-winded, this is a tight 1 hour show. So like
no exceptions.
There's no exceptions. It will cut me off. So you will only have to, you know, have an hour. But it does play on their YouTube, and we'll make sure on our pages that we get you guys all the information and links to the UNX YouTube. And then I believe at the same time, yes, it does play live on Facebook. And then from there, you know, I know they'll shoot it out to different podcast platforms. And then like Deedee said, we will also get a recorded version to put on our YouTube. So, you know, we get a lot more views on our replay, but for those that do like to interact, and that's our show. I mean, I stand by this, like, you know, if it weren't for the people watching and interacting and asking the amazing questions that they do, the show wouldn't be, to me, as big of a success. I mean, you know, people love to see their names pop up and, you know, and to be a part of it. I mean, it's not just, these people are not just for Deedee and I to meet, they're for everybody to meet. And so it's like absorbing people into our circle and welcome, you know, hey, welcome to our friends, and they want to talk to you. So if you want to still do that, you have to go to the UNX YouTube. If you want to put it on
ours too.
And I guess you could technically, when you upload it to your YouTube, you could technically upload it as a premiere where you could be commenting in
live
the chat room, I guess. That's
true.
Still do the live chat versus
that's true.
But that is another thing that I really enjoy about your show. You've got your regular viewers, and you've got some new ones as well, but you've got your regulars, and everyone, they seem to have really gotten to know each other, and they love interacting.
I do love watching that on the side. You know, I can't see anything right now because I have no glasses, so I just see blurbs. But you know, I do love seeing that. Like, you know, we'll pull up the comments when people want to talk to the guests, but it is cute to see everybody like, hey, how are you? And what's going on? And how about this? And did you get that? It's to me, you know, I always use this description. You know, if we get a guest and they'll say, you know, so do you have questions? What do you do? And it's like, no, it's like we met on internet dating. It's okay. We just matched. And now we're going to meet for coffee and talk and just see. That's it. This is just casual. It's just hanging out. It's just having a drink and talking. So nothing to be afraid of. And it's fun because we brought all our friends along and they can talk to make sure
it's
a good
invited
date
to a party. Yeah,
that's right.
Absolutely. And looks like we got a question here, and it's from Deehu, which is one of your regulars as well. She asked, did Deedee collect haunted dolls prior to investigating?
No, that is a new hobby that I started after on our old podcast, we interviewed Unsettling Toys. And I believe that was where I bought my first dolls. I think I bought 4 of them. I was going to buy 1. I ended up with 4. And so that like kind of spurred. So I never would think I would be someone who collect dolls, haunted or otherwise. And now I have like, I don't know, 12.
Oh, wow.
That's a pretty good little collection.
Yeah, short amount of time, and you're just adding that energy in your house.
Time too, yeah.
Have you noticed any activity with them since you started?
Well, I have had some weird things go on. I don't know what to think because I do spirit box sessions with them, and they give me answers that totally go with what I'm asking, and it's on my YouTube channel, and it's just like, how could that be? That's you know?
Yeah.
And then there's 3 dolls that I have that I suspect could be haunted. That would be Adeline and the one behind me, Anime. And then I have one that I just acquired, and I can't think what her name is. This is why they're haunting me, see?
Yeah, right.
But each one of them, it like the atmosphere changed. I had weird things go on for a while. I had one of the dolls kept turning. And it was after I was on another show, and I held up the doll to the producer and I said, this doll doesn't do anything. And that's when the doll started turning after that. So, which would make it a 4th haunted doll. So I don't know. I think if it's possible, then I've got a few. Yeah.
That's cool. And it's interesting to watch to see, you know, because I know sometimes you'll have different stories about kind of what's happened that week. And so that's kind of a really fun, it's not so much a segment, but it's a cool part that,
Well,
that you all have on
Anime,
the show.
that's the one where as soon as I got her, it sounded like someone was walking across my furniture, like an adult walking across the table, the vanity up to my dresser, and there's no cat, like literally the lights are on and you hear the movement. And it's just like, and even I said to my husband, I'm like, you hear that, right? And he's like, yeah. And I'm all, what is that? He's all, I don't know. And the way he deals with the paranormal is he just says, I don't know. And he moves on.
That's right. Ignore.
And I'm just like, but what was that?
Well, is there a story behind Anime that makes you all think she may be haunted?
Was the one, she was owned by a woman, and her son didn't like the doll because he said he was having nightmares about the doll. So she decided to send it to Unsettling Toys, and then I got it from them. And so that's the only thing was the night. I bought it because it's supposed to be like dreams and nightmares. I'm like, that's perfect for me because I do dream analysis. I love dreams and all that. So I'm going to get this one. And I only had one dream of the doll looking at me through a mirror. It was in the mirror, like peeking out at me in my dream. And I was like, okay. But otherwise, it's just the furniture movement and stuff like that.
Wow. Okay. So,
Yeah.
The dolls are a little, I don't know, they're a little unsettling for me.
Says the woman with a big giant mummy behind her. Okay.
Well, I have his motion sensor turned off because if you move in front of him, and he's not a doll, he's a nightlight.
Okay. Sure.
Well, it's like not a doll, an action figure, I guess.
Sure. Yeah, more of an action figure. That's right.
So how about you, Sarah? Do you have do you ever experience any haunting activity in your home?
I've had some things. I think I am, I don't know. I think I just say it's not, it's nothing that's been horrifying. But things, a door has been open that hasn't been opened in years, and it's locked and it will be open. There have been weird people caught in the windows that I've taken pictures of that I wasn't trying to. My daughter, I would say my daughters have had bigger experiences than me. But maybe it is because I ignore, I don't, or I question too much. I don't know, but they have seen, I've got one that has seen somebody in their room thinking it was their sister and it wasn't. And then the other one would hear breathing under her bed. And she is woken up and thought it was her sister shaking her bed, and then it wasn't. She turned on the light and there was nobody there. So, yeah, I don't know. I think this stuff happens to everybody, and you just either, when you're in your home, I mean, it would have to be pretty dramatic for, I guess, me to like flip out, right? I'm in this house a lot, like 90% of the time alone. So, it would really have to freak me out. And I think you just go on with your day and you're like, oh, there it is. There's a knock, right. There's a feeling, or I catch things out of the corner of my eye and it's like, okay, well, I'm just doing my thing. You do your thing,
Yeah. It's kind of cool though.
It is cool. Yeah. And I try to investigate, I don't know. Maybe I just talk it away. I don't know.
Well, that's an interesting response because I know you all have interviewed people who have had very active homes, and I've had several on my show as well that do. And so it's always interesting to have those interviews and hear how they either cope or deal with it or
Mhm.
essentially investigate it. And then those that have activity and they're kind of just like, it
Yeah.
happens, you know.
Mhm. I always feel like other people's stories are more interesting, maybe, because Deedee can text me, during the afternoon and say, "Okay, you're not going to believe this," and I'm like, "Holy shit!" And I just feel like anything that I've had happen, it's like, it's not worth saying anything.
And see, and I feel the same way about you. It's always more interesting, I think, what's happening to somebody else, because I don't know why, but that's true.
Yeah, there's a term for it, but I'll keep it nice tonight, so I won't use it. But there is a term for that. But we're not on Paranormally Blonde, so I won't wreck your show.
Gotcha. And we got a comment over here from Dr. Sumner, who says she's excited to be a guest on the new platform.
Yeah, so we've already got, like, March has just turned into this amazing, not only did we get to be on Ghost Biker right at the beginning of the month, so when we start March 14th, our very first guest is Dr. Sumner, and I am just so excited because I really want to, I haven't had the chance to sit down and talk to her about her study she did with investigators and sharing that. So it's like, just to be able to do one-on-one, let's talk about that, and, you're lucky, Chris, it's an hour. You don't have to worry. I'm not going to mumble and ramble on for more than that. So we'll get some good deets there. And we've got Mike Ricksecker that we found through you, which is amazing. So we got some great people coming up on the new platform.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And you guys go deep and stuff with, with your conversation and with the topics and stuff. So that's going to be a lot of fun, I think.
Well, I think that there are some questions we all, like, if you follow my Instagram, I just have these thoughts, and sometimes I got to get them out of my head. Sometimes they're ridiculous, and sometimes they kind of spur kind of a deeper conversation. And, we know a lot of the surface stuff, right? Like, we know what we see on TV. So I don't really want to ask you those questions. I rather know, like, so if you could set your religion aside for 5 minutes, how would paranormal show up to you in that form? Or if you decided that aliens did exist, I mean, whatever. I mean, let's talk about something other than, right, the typical, I don't know. I know everybody's got their first question, and that's great. I just, and really, I think the conversation that Deedee and I have with our guest is kind of so casual that it just kind of starts going, so what about that? And then people get excited to share something new. So I figure you can ask anything. They don't have to answer.
That's true. That's true.
You should try to ask it anyways.
So, what are some of your favorite topics that have been, or topics of interest that have been discussed on your show? I know one that is something that Deedee does and is interested in that I find fascinating is the dream analysis. And I'm always, because I always feel like, it's so fascinating whenever you start really digging into that. And so that's one of mine. But what are your all's favorite topics that you've covered on your show?
What do you think, Deedee?
Well, my mind is like thinking of ones that I want to cover. Can I talk about that?
Sure.
I really would like to get a time traveler on our show. I need to talk to somebody who's time traveling. And then I really enjoy talking about time slips, which we kind of did. I think that's fascinating. I like the things that are like, they're not necessarily ghosts, but just things that are so crazy out there that just the idea that it could be real is exciting to me.
Yeah, kind of more supernatural sort of.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess for me, I like to pick myself apart. So I think I like to pick apart, I like the deepest, darkest corners. Like, like, why do you use the word demon? I mean, I know sometimes it ruffles feathers. I know that there are topics that Deedee and I would be like, this would be so great to talk about, but this might really piss somebody off. Like, we have to be careful what we're bringing up. But why? Like, I guess my whole thing is I kind of like to push the envelope in some areas, and it's not like I'm, breaking barriers here. It's just, I like to push a little bit because, it's okay to speak outside of something you believe, because, I don't know, explore it. And it might lead you right back to your belief that you had, or it might bust something wide open for you and lead you down another path. So that's for me, I like to pick myself apart. I like to understand like why I would believe something was a certain way and then try to dump that conditioned belief. And then it doesn't always work, but sometimes it does. And, you know, if you can get people to open up about it. I think sometimes we're afraid to say that stuff though in paranormal. It's like you have to tiptoe around certain subjects because, you know, you got to kind of bow down to those who are out there doing it on a more celebrity level. And we don't want to rock that boat. And I think, why not?
I was going to say, why not? You
Rock
know?
it. Rock
And-
it.
I know
Balance
you're
it
not
back
worried about
out.
rocking the boat.
Yeah, I poor Deedee. God bless her. She puts up with me. Who
got
else?
a good yin and yang balance there.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I mean, you know, you'd mentioned Mike Ricksecker earlier, and he's one that I had on my show that I just was really fascinated by his research and his study, especially with shadow people. And I know he's one. I feel like every time I have someone on the show, I learn something, either good, bad, or ugly. I always feel like I learn something, or that my theories or even my beliefs are essentially maybe a little tested. But I feel like in the very end, I feel like it sort of expands what I'm thinking. Just because I feel like if somebody puts something out there that maybe I totally don't necessarily agree with, it still expands my mind and either makes my theory feel
That's right.
to me stronger, or, you know, helps kind of put some more pieces together. And that's what I really liked about his. So I'm really looking forward to him coming onto your show. And because I know he has so many topics that he's studied that, you know, you could probably spend hours talking to him.
But we can't. We can only spend an hour. Or we'll just have to have multiple. We'll have to have them.
Yeah, that's what we decided. That's how we
series.
figured it out. If we need to keep talking, then we'll have to schedule another episode.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Let's see here. Looking over here at the comments, Anna says, demons to me are an unwanted spirit causing negative emotions. And that's always fascinating as well to just to hear what people's
that's what it's
definition
about.
of demons are.
That's right. And amen, Anna. Like, honestly, like I think you should hear them all. Demons are different to every religion. Demons are, you know, Buddhists, they're hungry ghosts. Then it's not what you think they are. They're not horned things that come up from the ground. It's what man creates. So, you know, there is a different term, and I'm not here to step on people's toes. Deedee's certainly not here to step on anybody's toes. And it's like you said, it's to open our eyes to the world that is, this paranormal world is huge, and none of us know if we're doing it right. Just like religion, none of us know if we're doing it right. So we're just out there exploring and poking some holes and seeing what we can find.
Exactly. And as Peter Alice says, rock that boat.
That's right. Don't worry. I always do. Poor Deedee's trying to captain it, going, okay, we got to just slow down a little bit, Sarah. I know. Seriously, God bless her.
Let's see here. Sorry about that.
You're good.
Manning the comments over here. So is that probably the most, I guess, controversial you all have gotten into? I mean, because you all talk about both. You talk about paranormal. You talk about aliens, cryptids.
We try to touch on it all. So I tried my hand at, and we'll do it again. You know, I did my first, little round table with 3 people, and it was a good wide range, and it was kind of funny because they were all just really nice, and so there was no real.
There was no debate. Everybody agreed.
There was, and I threw demons out as the first thing, which was probably pretty obvious, but it's interesting, and I think. Social media, it's so amazing for so many reasons. It really is. But, it is funny that I think we are so afraid because the backlash you get. And it's like, why are we upset with people just sharing a message? Like we're just talking. I didn't say any of this was written in stone. I'm not trying to change your minds about anything. It's just simply a conversation. And so I think if you're not somebody, if you're coming to watch us and you want to, tell me it's wrong, you're wrong, don't have that theory. I'm not I'm not really looking for right or wrong here. We're just trying to meet everybody doing their thing. And, you know, I think that's kind of, I think with social media, right, you're canceled. You can't say that. If you say something wrong about a certain celebrity, then you're a jerk for saying it. And that's so weird to me. It's like, are we not all adults? No, probably not.
And you guys have a very active Instagram page too, as far as a lot of like questions and stuff. Don't you all typically pose questions every so often?
Yeah. So I try really hard. I do. And I have to say, in the beginning, I would form them one way and I wasn't getting a lot of hits on it, but then I turned it into another way. And again, it's another way for people Deedee nailed it. People just want to be heard. People just want to be like, hey, I'm in the back of the class and, I might not be the flashiest or whatever, but, this is what I have to say. So I do love posing those questions when people then will say like, hey, this is what I do. And again, then it's like, that's interesting. I'm going to try that on my next investigation or, why not? I haven't learned it all. I don't know. I don't even know how people do. I'm always amazed when somebody has kind of that expertise in a wide variety. It's like, there are so many freaking different ghosts to learn. How would you know them all? I don't even understand in all the cultures and stuff. How do you keep all that straight? Yeah. I don't know. There's too much to learn. It is amazing, right?
Yeah. It's a lot to learn. And I mean, you could probably spend your time specializing just in one thing and it would take a full lifetime just to.
And I think we do, right? We specialize in that one area. And I think that's one thing that does work with Paranormally Blonde. It isn't just ghosts. Obviously, that is something that Deedee and I truly love, are the ghost stuff, but the cryptids and the aliens and the conspiracy theories and, the astral projection, like all that stuff is very interesting and it's fun to talk about. And, I think it keeps it fresh. And then you start to learn all the ties, all the things that tie into something. So, why wouldn't you just want to get a little piece of it all? Just to dip your toe in. Yeah.
That's the best part, is that we can touch on so many different areas over the course of a month. Mm-hmm. And like Miranda was saying, I literally learned something new with every guest. Yeah. And, just like the whole alien ghost thing, is that different things that I was, that's definitely a spirit or an angel. And then somebody said something, I was like, oh my God, it could have been aliens. And then your mind blows.
That's right.
Yes.
And then you have to start all over and backtrack everything and put alien in there and think, how could that be? I love that. I love when people make me think harder and make me think I wasn't right, even though it hurts in the beginning, it's good because you want,
That's right. Growth often does. That's right.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's essentially where I'm from, being here, in the Bible Belt, but, there is such a negative connotation at times when it comes to paranormal investigating. And I feel like it's a very closed-minded view because a lot of the time, I mean, to me, it's very irritating when you're doing an investigation and very quickly, as soon as anything happens, somebody gets a scratch, someone gets a touch, someone gets a more aggressive response, instantly the word demon is thrown out. And, I feel like what you just said, the more you sit and start to research and learn about this stuff, you learn that there could be cryptids, there could be aliens, there could be a litany of other explanations.
A time traveler.
What it could be. A time traveler. Yeah. And so just, I mean, if we didn't sit and listen to some of these experiences and some of these theories, I mean, I wouldn't throw alien into, that mix.
It kind of seems like it's the new thing right now. Like, I feel like a lot of people are really exploring the ghost/alien connection and one versus the other. And I've brought this up on the show a few times. I find it very interesting too, that, you can look up, I got caught up in targeted individuals, which is a conspiracy theory. And it's a rabbit hole that you just can't even imagine. Well, maybe you can, I don't know. But, so there's targeted individuals, there's alien abductions, and then there's, hauntings or poltergeists. And these three things have very similar, experiences. So it's interesting to me, I can't help but to then focus on really less about the paranormal activity and more about the individual, because it's like, wow, like, so if you had a disembodied voice happen in your house and you found a quarter, you know, placed in a weird spot, for me, I would be thinking a ghost. I wouldn't think I'm a targeted individual. Or if you had certain things happen and you're like, oh, I was abducted by an alien. It's like it's where our minds go, and what makes I'm really interested, like what makes somebody more interested in aliens than ghosts, and vice versa, and what makes somebody completely not think of paranormal, but totally that somebody in the government is targeting them and they have to cover their house in tinfoil because of the EMF rate. I mean, it's an incredible journey of, you know, how the living copes and deals, and, you know, what were they, I guess, inundated with? I don't know, with beliefs, and, you know, I don't know. It's a beyond interesting. And I think that, you know, when people have that, like you said, kind of that closed-minded experience of, if you get scratched, it's a demon. No offense to anybody out there, a little lazy. Yeah. I mean, explore it a little bit. I don't know if you should always just go to demon. I mean, let's talk about your experience. What were you feeling? What was going on? What were you doing? What were you provoking? What were you, you know, it could, what if this thing had been trying, like the ghost in my house, what if they've been trying to get my attention? They're like, okay, seriously, now we're going to just scratch her.
Yeah. What I've always said is that they, like, a clock flew off my wall, and they would classify that as poltergeist activity. But I felt like it's more like definitely an attention getter. It doesn't mean that something's trying to hurt you or harm you. They need your attention. And who knows how hard it is to move anything, or it could take years maybe.
That's right.
Like my story with my grandfather. He died like, 20 years ago. And it took him 20 years to contact. And it was through a letter that my cat brought me, an email. Like, that took 20 years, right? So, I mean, who knows how hard it is?
Okay, so wait, I have a question then. This is where my mind goes. And I'm not going to say that this would be all the time, but okay, so your grandfather passed away 20 years ago. It took that long for this email, which is the craziest story. It is an amazing story, to be honest with you, that Deedee has about this email that was found under her bed, correct? By a cat.
Can you share it?
Sure. Yeah. Well, my cat Gemini brings me a piece of paper, and I look at it, and it's an email, and it's really simple. It was from my grandfather in like the year 2000, and it said something like basic, like, I'm going to mail you something. And then he said, tell everyone I say hello. And then he said, you know, from the grandfather, the father, the best guy in the world, right? And so that's how he would sign his letters. And so I'm a paper hoarder, so I'm sad to say. I have like tax returns from 1987. I don't know what's wrong with me. I can't get rid of the paper. That's where I'm lazy. And so of all the papers I have, the cat brought me, I mean, there's literally thousands of papers, okay? The cat brought me that email. She brought it up on top of the bed and dropped it at me, okay? That's just weird. And so I literally have told every one of my relatives, Grandpa says hello. You know,
I don't know why my cat had just got in my lap when you started telling this story. He literally just jumped in my lap.
Yeah, he's like, oh, it's cat time.
Anyways, please go on.
I love that story. But what if, let's play the game. There is no real concept of time, and that's how long certain things do take. I mean, you talk about space, in the space to Earth. I know I'm talking like an idiot now, but right, and what it takes for sound to travel, for light to travel. Well, what if that's what it takes for messages to travel? I mean, I understand that when we do certain investigations as investigators, we get what we think are immediate answers. Yeah. And I'm not saying those are wrong, and maybe perhaps there are those that maybe they're closer, maybe the vibration helps, maybe the frequency, I don't know. But it is interesting to me that, I think we build those stories, and this is kind of where this is just Sarah's opinion on Paranormally Blonde. Please, everybody don't give Deedee any crap about this. This is just something I kind of work with. But, I think we have these stories, and, look, we're human, and we make certain situations in living life fit. Right. And that's something you have right in front of you that's concrete, right? Like, oh, somebody said this. And then how do we sometimes change those stories, right? Like, well, they said it like this. And it's like, that's not even how they said it, but that's how we interpret it. Right. So sometimes I think we have these experiences as investigators, and they just fit because that's the story. And then and especially if it's a popular location with many stories. And I don't love those at all. I'm sorry. They're not my favorite. I don't have one experience that is ever similar to something that's been shared 1,000 times ever.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen for me. But so, what if that's the case? What if that was something that grandpa had sent to you, and, it took that long, but that's when the message was supposed to be received? I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I believe that it's all instantaneous, right?
That makes sense, because if I had gotten that letter 10 years ago, I would have thought nothing of it.
Right.
15 years ago, it would have just been like, it wouldn't have meant it would have meant something to me, but not paranormally wise. Like, I had to be ready to receive that information.
Yeah, I know. And that's fascinating, and really a beautiful story. I know when my dad passed away, he passed away it was November 19th. And so early December, my mom, she got it was, with marketing and stuff, they have the letters that will they can customize the letters and stuff to be specific to the person that is being sent, not just the address, but some of the design work. And Mom had got this letter. It was from a jewelry store, and it had a heart-shaped pendant on it. And when she opened it up, it said Harold is sending a message to you. Or no, it said Harold, send a message to Sandra, and it said, Sandra, I love you. And it was right after. And to me, when Mom saw that, she was just, she knew, and she was telling me about it. And so she ended up saving that. And it's just something that was just simple in the mail that you might not think anything about, just like tell her you love her with blah, blah, blah. But it actually had it on it, Sandra, I love you, from Harold. And it just, to me, it gave me chills, because it's like, when the timing is right, these messages are out there.
They are out there everywhere, right?
I love that.
That is a great story too.
Yeah. So I mean, it's, and then just to be able to hear these other stories from other people and just kind of see how different things tie together. I mean, that's what's so cool about doing this and watching your show and that sort of thing. If you had a topic, what is your favorite topic to discuss on the show? Do you like the cryptids? Are you still, paranormal fanatics, or do you kind of like looking more at the ETs and such?
It's hard to choose. I mean,
it depends on the day.
Cryptids is fascinating, not necessarily because of the cryptids themselves, but the people who go out there in the woods. Yeah. And there's hunters out there, and bears, and who knows what's out there, serial killers, and you're out there in the woods. And that takes balls. I'm certainly not going out there by myself. I might go out there with a team of people and some guns and stuff, but I'm not going. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's really, I think those people are very courageous, and it's one that I think is not like viewed as much. Like, everybody's into ghosts and aliens, but the cryptids is a little less, in my from what I've seen, there's like less shows and stuff like that. So it's kind of like they don't get as much credit as everybody else does.
The recognition
is actually scarier.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I agree. I think, it's not just necessarily the topic. I would love, and this is where it's hard to get people, I think, to be open publicly about it on a show about it, but I really kind of like to dig into the psychology and the sociology of paranormal. If I could get somebody to, somebody's a lot, to sort of participate in answering some questions, and it, it's always been something that I've been interested in. I mean, many times when I'm on investigations, as we all know, sometimes they're very boring, and so I would start watching the investigators, especially if you're on a public hunt. And so, which is creepy if you think about it, I guess, a little bit, but it wasn't done in, a bad way, just trying to watch how people react, what people say to each other, how people get each other worked up. I did even go as far as like how many times people ate, because, I got to always eat. So I'm like watching to see who's keeping And I do think, by the way, diet is very important during an investigation. And,
Yes.
you know, you have to, there's a whole ass bunch of stuff on that. And it's a fight or flight. It's just like athletes, you get your adrenaline pumping and you dump and right. And people sometimes can mistake in those moments for a paranormal experience, and it's not, it's your body. And so, you know, I really love to watch people like that. And so I would love people, you know, and it would be an ongoing thing. It's not a one and done. You know, I would love to be able to investigate with them. I would love to sit down and talk about, you know, you don't have to get super personal, but, you know, hey, is there more or less trauma in your life? And, you know, and boy, if I could get Dr. Molnar involved in that, the haunted MD, and start taking some medical stuff as well. I mean, you know, you almost want to know, like, you know, and I know they've touched on this a little bit, but, you know, it would be really interesting to be hooked up to certain things and go and experience. And, you know, Deedee and I are very different. And so, you know, wouldn't that be amazing to be able to do investigations like a Paranormally Blonde event, and we break up into groups, and then we change groups, and you kind of see how reactions differ. And, you know, that's the stuff that's really interesting to me. And again, because I don't have solid proof of the dead, I 100,000% believe, I have no doubt in my mind that there is, you know, we go on. There is so much more than just this skin that we wear, right? So I believe that, but I don't have that solid evidence. So what I do have are the living in front of me. And so I love to watch that. And I did that a little bit when I got to, sorry, ladies, when I got to investigate with Ghost Biker and Soul Sisters Paranormal. And you just watch interactions. You watch how people are different in their approach, and, you know, how activity can ramp or decrease. And, you know, and especially because I'm not somebody that has big experiences. So, you know, to be with different people and to be with Jenny, you know, opposed to Chris, or be just with you, it was a very interesting thing to me. And I'm an idiot for not writing this stuff down and keeping a log. Like, that is just dumb. I could be writing books right now. What the hell? That's right. Like, what am I thinking? But so that, I think I would love to get into that kind of stuff on the show. I don't know how interested the masses would be in something like that. I don't know how much, you know, I think people love to hear the ghost stories, and I love that too. There's hands down, absolutely. And that's my favorite topic. I love to hear the ghost stories. But I would love to have people come on and, you know, just talk about who they are, and then let's discover why we have the experiences. I mean, why are my experiences so different than Miranda's and so different than Deedee's, you know? But that's me.
That's exactly what I was going to say, is just, I mean, it's interesting how the experiences are so different, and how you can be sitting around and just the people hear different things just on the EVPs, or hear different, you know, you'll hear some people that something sounds like a man, and another, it can sound like a woman. So I'm like you, the psychology behind it is just truly fascinating, because I believe a lot of what we experience in some of these locations is what we go in with, whether it be the emotions, the attitude, you know. I mean, I've always thought that. And that's why I try not to, if I am, I have anxiety issues at times. And if I'm anxious, or if I've got something like that going on, I won't go in and investigate. And I'm so superstitious that I won't ride my motorcycle. You know, if I'm anxious in that respect, I won't ride my motorcycle to a location, even though the motorcycle is something that helps me kind of really ground myself and such. If I know it's a darker, more hyped up location, just out of superstition, I don't want to ride my bike to it, you know, or at least ride it from it afterwards. But I like hearing that, because I truly do believe that shapes a lot of the experiences we have inside of the locations.
And when you think about it, as you're saying that, right, you're talking about, if I know it's a darker location, so I won't ride my bike because I'm superstitious. Well, now we're getting into manifesting, right? Now we're getting into self-fulfilling prophecies. And
that's right.
And that's not that it's not an experience. It is an experience. I think that, you know, we are so magical in ourselves. And I have my own personal reasons why I push that. And I just, you know, we do so many amazing things as a living person. And I believe it's because of what we're finding out in paranormal, these energies, these spirits, these ghosts, that's what's coming from within us. They didn't just become magical once they left us, right? I think we are truly magical while we live, and we're even more magical while we've moved on, because now we're not, so I just, there's a lot, I think, that we like to ignore, and because it's not quite as fantastical to hear. I think it's more fantastical, but not everybody wants to look at themselves or look at their situation, and they just want to go with the story. And I respect that, and I think that I do too at times. There are certain locations that you're like, okay, I'm going to go to this location. This is the story, and I'm not going to wreck it. I'm just going to go with the story because, and then there are some locations that I think, those experiences are just for you. They are personal messages for you. I believe that is very, very, I think it's more common than it's not. So, it's, if Deedee and I go somewhere and she has something and I just absolutely don't, and it's affected her in a way that was profound, then that was a message for Deedee, and that's how that came through. And it wasn't because she was more aware because she was on a paranormal investigation, perhaps, right? It doesn't make that experience less. I think we're so busy trying to have the same experiences as Zach Bagans or Jason Hawes, or right, like we're always trying to do those TV things, and it's like, don't. There are amazing things going on, some scary, some not, and don't compare.
Yeah. And we see that all the time in the public ghost hunts with people who maybe don't do that. Maybe they're just paranormal enthusiasts, but aren't investigators. And a lot of the time, I think that's where TV has done a disservice, because they will come in thinking that it's going to be things fall. And we have had at the jail things fall off the walls. We have had crazy, wild things happen, but it kind of makes you nervous sometimes telling those stories, because while they're these fantastic stories of these amazing experiences, there are a lot of subtleties that happen as well. And I think that if you don't go out and investigate all the time, I don't think you always appreciate just the little subtle things that happen, because you're expecting something big, grand, and dramatic.
That's right.
And TV has really, and TV makes it think like, they're usually there for a week. We're there doing a public investigation for 3 hours.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of sitting, a lot of just kind of talking, and people don't really realize that if they watch a lot of the paranormal entertainment shows.
Yeah, there's no great music playing behind you as you're investigating. Although we should start that. I'm just saying.
I like that. I need a soundtrack.
Yeah, maybe we'll just start the Paranormally Blonde. If you want us to make you a soundtrack for your next investigation, we'll just whip that up for you. So,
it does make me wonder though, because doing lives and stuff, lives can be dramatic in and of themselves. Just even if nothing is really happening, if you're alone in a building and you're kind of walking around, and I don't know what's around the next corner. The people who are watching doesn't know what's around the next corner. It really makes you wonder in a study, if you played some type of dramatic music, change the mood. If that would, change the activity. If that would actually raise it.
We're gonna do a Paranormally Blonde study, and I'm gonna recruit people, and we're doing this shit, and we're gonna just start investigating with people, and I'm gonna study the crap out of you. Whatever. Because you really, I think the thing is though, Miranda, like, when Deedee watched your live at St. Albans, that was dramatic, right? And here's the cool, that's right.
It really was.
And I think the cool thing about those, though, I think people who come to watch those lives, they have that idea. They don't need, and again, this is not a criticism. Some people love to be spoon-fed that stuff. Give me the music, give me the dramatic lightings, give me the edited cut shots, like, and that's okay. You can love that. There are things that I love about that too. But I think if you're willing to sit and watch somebody's live, right? That's already dramatic. You're giving them that opportunity to feel that tension. And those are the scary movies. I don't watch anything high, big dollar, big named. If it's big named, I'm out. Like, I won't watch it. I don't watch the Conjuring series. I don't watch the Annabelle series. I don't watch any of that because I'm not interested. It's those movies that really have you like thinking, what did I just hear? Right? Like the old fashioned ones that it wasn't all in your face. You had to use your imagination. And I think that's what I like, especially when you do lives, Miranda. Like, that's a really great opportunity for people. I think Deedee even said, like, what if I never get to go there? And now I got to see inside this amazing
it felt like
building.
I was there because it was in the moment. I loved doing that, and then like being another set of eyes. And there was a few of us on there that stayed throughout. I think it was a few hours.
I think I was on for like 2 or 2.5 hours.
At least, because it was like well over midnight, which would have been like 3 a.m. for you.
It was 3 a.m. Yeah, and I would have stayed on longer if my phone battery hadn't died. Because it was. I mean, we were actually getting quite a bit of interesting activity. Yeah. And I was just amazed at how lost I got inside of this building. I mean, it's actually it's deceivable how small it looks. Well, I mean, it doesn't look small, but I mean, how unless you're looking at it essentially from a like a drone view or something,
right?
It seems a lot smaller, but there are underground levels and there are like these little hidden areas that you might not see when you're just kind of walking through the building. And so it was really fun. And it's something I actually really want to do a lot more of. And I've had a lot of people requesting because I used to do lives with every investigation that I did. Especially when I was with the team, we always did an hour to 3 hours of lives at each location. And we did those usually once a month. And I really enjoyed it. But when I started doing my season and I was keeping it a secret where I was going, I just kind of quit doing the lives. But I hope to go live again at St. Albans. We're doing an event on the 23rd of April, I believe is the date. So I hope to go live again there. But I'm really hoping this year to actually do more lives, just because for me, I'm glad the people who watch enjoy it, but for me, I really enjoy it just because it is fun to have those other people there along with you, to be your eyes and ears.
Yeah. And I think that's exactly, I mean, Deedee was like on point. She's like, what was that? I was here. Like, what was, and she's really good for pointing that stuff out. So yeah, I think that's really a cool part of, again, like I said, there's so many amazing things to the social media aspect. So if you are somebody that maybe you're the enthusiast and you love paranormal, but you're not really somebody that wants to go to some of these buildings, which I understand, right? This is a perfect opportunity. And, I don't know. And it would be interesting too, to see what somebody watching it versus the person doing it, like I've got so much. Oh my God. I might have to like get my doctorate or something in this. I know, like it's notebook. Deedee got me this great notebook. I guess it's time that I start using it for my ideas.
Yeah, it can be your analytical notebook. So you said some interesting things going up. Do you have any investigations coming up, Deedee? I know you've done a couple lives and a couple different sessions. Do you have any scheduled coming up that you can talk about?
I want to go do Old Town San Diego, but I don't have like it scheduled yet. So, but that's something that we were discussing. I'd love to be able to do the airfield, but there's another paranormal team that runs it. And then I have another idea about Temecula too. So I kind of have a couple of things in my mind. I have to, make sure I can do a live.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Some places, don't necessarily allow it. And I think that's what I really enjoy about those locations that you do, is because you're on the West Coast. And so it's a lot of locations that I've never, California, Oregon, and Washington are 3 of the states that I've never been to. And so I think there's like 6 I've not been to. And those are 3 that I really want to get out to California. And I love your pictures you post when you go to Old Town there. And then and the airfield was fascinating awesome. Too. Yeah. You got some really interesting pictures there.
Yeah, that was really cool. And then we just recently went to a train museum, and it's got, they have like, over 500 like trains and trolleys. And I made some videos and took some pictures. I'm still going. I get all excited and I take like hundreds of pictures.
That's
and
right.
I have to go through hundreds of pictures because then I feel like I can't skip I want to skip it. I'm like, no, you can't, because that's going to be the one. And then I have to watch all the videos and stuff. So I'm still going through it because I have like 500 things.
Yeah, that's a lot. I wanted to mention too, though, like, I think that's one thing I really have loved about Paranormally Blonde. And to be honest with you, and it started with the first show as well. we've talked, Miranda, about this where it gets a little territorial with teams, right? Teams, kind of the Midwest guys kind of stick together, and then the West Coast guys kind of stick together, right? In the Pacific,
very regional.
It's very regional, and I will say, I feel like Paranormally Blonde has been really amazing for making sure that we have touched all over, and so I've never felt that we didn't belong in any region or territory. And I think that's huge, because as a person, when you have a team, I've got a sister in Texas, one in New York, and now I'm in the Midwest. New York and Michigan are not even the same, even though we're not that far, right? But those are different. That's East Coast versus Midwest. And we haven't really fit in any certain region or territory. Like they don't let us in. It's kind of interesting. But as Paranormally Blonde, I got to meet all these amazing people. And, I think that's been a really huge perk and benefit to the show is, it kind of helps meld all those regions together that, I probably wouldn't know if I was absorbed into the Midwest. And, you just kind of stick to your own, and it's like, it's kind of dumb. So I wanted to make sure that
locations that way either. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. So
yeah. And I'm not really sure how that happens. I mean, because I guess I can kind of see. I mean, if you're going to these, I mean, we've got a lot of locations here in the South, and if you're all going to them, the location owners will talk about mention stuff that different teams have gotten, and you just get to know those teams in that region. I guess that's how that happens, but it's always fun to reach out because, the hauntings in the areas, while there's a lot of similarities, they're all so different.
They're very different.
Yeah. And that's, I got to say, that's one of the things that I've enjoyed the most about opening up the historic Scott County Jail is seeing the different teams that come in, because you have some people, they come in, they're really new and they don't have a lot of equipment, or you have others that they come in and they're essentially corrections officers or police officers. We had a great team come in, and they were a group of police officers, and they hadn't been doing it very long. They had gone to a couple places, didn't come in with a ton of equipment. They essentially came in, their equipment was their job, their their lingo that they talk, and just their own personalities. And that was very interesting to see the different things that they captured. And then you have these other teams that come in with tens of thousands of dollars of equipment, and they're very technical. And then there's more of the metaphysical side that comes in, that go by more of their feelings and those sort of things. And so I feel like I'm always learning, and it's interesting when they come to you and they tell you the different things that they capture, and to see how they capture a lot of the same things or a lot of the similar activity, but they may just get it on a different tool, or get it in a different way. So that's probably been my favorite part about the whole thing, is really just being able to be immersed inside of the team spirit, if you will. We have one lady, she came by herself. She came all the way down from Ohio, northern Ohio, came down by herself, investigated the jail all by herself. And
go, girl.
Yeah. And just it's just the dynamic of all of it, and being able to see that and experience it has been something that I've really enjoyed, and feel like I've learned a lot from just myself from that.
So what I'm hearing is that I do need to do this stat. We need to get on this whole thing where, I'm going to be invited to events. We're going to do this. We're getting this done. We're done. We're done being the quiet, mousy girls, right, Deedee? We got to get in there and just... Because that's how
I've never known you to be quiet.
No, not many people have. No, it takes a lot. It takes a lot to shut me up.
I love that side of it. And that's what I really like about Dr. Sumner. We had mentioned her earlier, and the fact that she's going to be on your show. That study that she did it's a phenomenal study. And the information that she was able to get from that, between paranormal investigators, location owners, and ghost walks, it's amazing information, and it really tells you so much. And so it's I don't know. I could just sit and listen to that type of
Yeah.
research and information because it really tells me. Of course, I kind of geek out on a lot of stuff and geek out on the analytical side of things and the psychological side of things. But
it's all part of it, though, right? Like that's
I
another
think it
aspect of
is.
paranormal, and you know, you're looking to get to know it all, and I think that's
Mhm.
the real exploration, right? It doesn't just stop with, oh my God, I heard a knock.
Yeah.
Or maybe it does. I don't know.
For me, I'll get lost in it. If it's a ghost story,
Yeah.
I enjoy that, but I think I more so want to know why.
Yeah.
You know, why did you get that type of activity? What did you do? You know, why do you get that over someone else? You know, what's your technique? So I think you need to make that study happen.
Yeah, but I need people to be brutally honest, because it's gonna be more than just why do you think you got it? Because a lot of times people will be like, well, I don't know, I had this experience when I was a kid, and then now
I'm just special.
I'm special, right? But let's talk about why you're special. And there are some questions, you don't have to go into detail, but I think there are things that you have to acknowledge, because we have these experiences with the living. We walk through our living life making these different judgments all day long. And there's a reason why we do. Well, why do we think that ends when we deal with paranormal? It doesn't. It is exactly why you experience paranormal the way you experience, because it's what you, like you said, it's what you bring to the table. And, you know, some of us bring, I don't know, light, and some of us bring dark. I was trying to be nice there. I kind of fell flat there. I was trying to reel myself back in. So I'll digress.
Well,
is that what that looks like? I know what that pause is.
That's right. There you go.
Well, on that note, why don't you go ahead and tell everyone again where they can find everything you all are doing? Because I know you all are busy, like I said, with Haunted Hour and Deedee's Dream Analysis and Paranormally Blonde. Let's just, like I said, let's plug away.
Deedee, go on.
Haunted Hour is on Twitter, and it's called Haunted Hour. And that's Sundays, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And Paranormally Blonde, this week will still be Wednesday on our YouTube channel, but March 14th, we're going to be on a new channel, which is and I'm not too sure, is their YouTube also?
It is. It is UNX.
Okay.
I believe it's, I don't know if it's KUNX or if it's UNX Network. We'll make sure everybody's got that stuff before we'll
be posting it.
Yeah, we'll be posting all that information.
That's right. And Dr. Sumner, March 14th, you said?
We have her the 14th. Yep. And then Mike Ricksucker. So, and then we also have a local dude coming from Michigan, a Bigfoot, who, weird enough, I just found out, is also friends with Miranda. So there you go. The world is small. So
there you go.
That's right. So fun times up ahead, everybody.
Exactly. Making the world a smaller place.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
But yes, you all definitely, you want to, if you've not watched their show, you definitely want to go and check them out, because they're a lot to listen to. And, you're going to watch them once and you're going to want to come back. So definitely go like and subscribe to their channels and to all of the different formats that they are doing. So just a couple little things before we wrap up. Next week, I will have the lovely ladies from Steel City Paranormal coming out of Pittsburgh. And so we're going to be talking about all the different things that they've got going on. I know we're going to be we're going to be talking. I can't remember if it's just before or just after their big Bel Air house investigation. And so that's, if you've not checked out the Bel Air house, that's a fun one. And so they've had some really cool experiences there. We're going to be talking about that, as well as their dynamic, because they're just an amazingly fun group. I met them in West Virginia at a Paracon. So, so I'm excited to have them on. That'll be next week. And then also on the Jailhouse Informant, which is the podcast out of the historic Scott County Jail that Dr. Sumner and I host on Monday nights at 8 p.m. So good thing we're not competing. People need to come and watch Paranormally Blonde at 7, and then tune on over to the historic Scott County Jail and watch the Jailhouse Informant at 8. And on this week's show, we're going to have a really, really fun group. We actually just met them a few weeks ago when they were doing an investigation at the jail, the Ghost Girls and Wayne. And
fun.
so they're a great group out of Middle Tennessee that's going to be talking about their experiences that they had at the jail, and then also some of their different investigations that they've had as well. If you've not watched the Jailhouse Informant, go back and watch the past episodes. It is not an all paranormal podcast. It is a true crime, history, and paranormal podcast. It's just this coming week, we're going to be talking a little more on the paranormal side of things. So check that out. Check out the historic Scott County Jail website. I'm looking right here. I saw where it was posted just a little bit earlier. I'm going to pull that up on the screen, but definitely go on there and here we go. Definitely go on there, check that out, because we do have new events posted. We're talking about our Women's History Month, which we're covering stories from historic women in Scott County to also some of the different femme fatales and crimes that were committed by females there at the historic Scott County Jail. So we're going to be covering that all during the month of March. And I believe, I'm trying to think if there's anything else as far as news, because I know we've got a whole lot going on and it's kind of hard to keep it all straight sometimes. But just definitely go check out that website, because we've got all of the information on there, as well as Ghost Biker information. I think the very next event that's coming up is the St. Albans event. They only have a few tickets left, and that is going to be Friday, April 22nd and 23rd. I saw a few comments over here in the chat room where Black Sky Paranormal is going to be there. Looking forward to meeting those guys. I think we're going to all go out to dinner one of those nights. But yeah, definitely looking forward to that event. So if you've not got your ticket yet, check on my page. It's called Enigma Cons, and a lot of great speakers. I think they just announced two new speakers that's going to be there. So anyways, until next week, I hope everyone has a great weekend and just an amazing week. So see you all soon.